Carlos Nelson with Cascade Sports. And hey, audience, we got a real special guest today. Most of my audience, I'm from New York City and the Bronx, and 72 years old also. But this man here, I had never met him, but all coming through high school, his name was ringing. Big time Hall of Fame coach, one of the best high school and college basketball coaches in the country, and I'm not exaggerating. Who do we have here today? Ron?
Ron Naclerio.
All right.
Ron Naclerio. Great to be on. Great to be on.
As I always say, you know the drill, and the drill is let's go back to kindergarten and talk about who you are, some of your mentors, and some of the highlights of your life, especially the mentors that help develop your character, not just in sports, on the court and off the court. The ball is in your court right now, Coach.
Well, when you're young, you think you have a brain, but most kids are really young and dumb. You get up, you go to school, you do that every day, and you say, wow, you're in kindergarten, first grade, and you don't know. You just can't wait till school's over and then start playing. And whatever it was, I was gravitated toward baseball, basketball, and football. And in those days, you would play baseball in the spring and summer. Fall, you would play football. In the winter, you would play basketball.
I don't want to interrupt you, but give some dates so that our audience will know what those days were. They talk about the good old days. They be talking about the 90s. No.
No, this was, I was born in 1957, so I would say middle 60s, late 60s. And boy, all of a sudden I had an addiction, a good addiction to sports. And that's all I did. I played. My parents, my dad was a heart and lung surgeon, a doctor, a Mount Rushmore doctor. My mom graduated from Columbia University, majored in architecture. So they valued education and they pushed education, and I saw education, and anything I needed around education, I was exposed to. But I also realized if I screwed up with my education, sports would be kicked to the side. So going to class on time, trying to do my best was something that I just did, because when school was over, first thing I did was come home, did my homework, so I could play the rest of the day. If it was a Friday and I got home at 3 and I had a half hour, an hour homework, I'd knock it off. So at 4 o'clock, I had the rest of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all weekend, which when you're a little kid, 2-3 days seems like 2-3 weeks. But when you get older, 2-3 weeks now seems like 2-3 days. And,
tell our audience where you grew up, because see, you got Cardoza on your what's name, but tell them where you grew up.
Well, I grew up for about 8-10 months, Forest Hills, in a garden apartment. And my parents bought a house in Bayside, Queens. And I don't remember, because I was only 8 months old, but I do remember living in Bayside, Queens. Unfortunately, my parents both passed away. I found my brother dead July 20th, 2002. So I'm in the house that I grew up, only about a short 5 or 6 blocks from Cardozo. The high school I went to, the high school I played baseball, basketball, and soccer for, the high school that I became an assistant coach while I was at St. John's, and the high school that I became the head coach in 1981. And I've been there ever since. And when I look back, you think of so many great things. I mean, so many great things. Playing Little League Baseball. You don't know. You get a hit, you think you're the only guy that can get a hit. You make a great play, you think, wow. You don't realize there's thousands and thousands and thousands of kids, not just in your neighborhood, in New York City, the United States, and the world. You know, everybody kind of overrates themselves or thinks that they're getting to the major leagues or they're getting to the NBA or whatever. And as you get older, you realize it's hard. And there's a lot of factors. One, how dedicated you are, how much you're willing to work. And then there's a God factor. How big does God make you be? I mean, if you're 5'9", I'm 5'10", but if you're 5'9", playing in the NBA is very, very hard. Not that you can't do it, but the odds are almost like hitting the lottery. Uh, Baseball is a great sport that I wish more kids in the inner city would play because you can be born average or a little below average, and you have a chance. I mean, you have Houston Astros 5'6" Jose Altuve, who looks like he's going to be a Hall of Famer. You have Phil Rizzuto from Richmond Hill High School, a great Yankee shortstop at 5'5". So you can be, like I said, built. You know, and I said, like, if Shaquille O'Neal, who's 7'3" and whatever he was, if he was 6'8", 6'9", which is still huge, I don't think he would be as good. So, you know, I played. I didn't realize baseball could have been my ticket because I love football and basketball. And I went to junior high school. I made my junior high school basketball team. I made my junior high school. We
Which
didn't have a
junior
baseball.
high school did you go to?
I went to Louis Pasteur 67. It's on Marathon Parkway. You know, and here I am in high school now, trying out for the team. I made the team. I was one of only 5 sophomores, and the baseball coach who was a mentor, Ed Tatarian, may he rest. You know, he's still alive. We're going to have a 90th birthday surprise party from not this October, next October, God willing. And Al Madigan, who was my basketball coach, who made me the assistant coach when I was at St. John's, and then believed in me. And when he retired, says, Ron, I want you to take over for me. And when I took over for him, I thought it was a 1 or 2 year thing, move up to college or the pros or move on to some business thing. But here I am, 2024. Oh my God, 2024. March 1st is Friday, and I'm still going strong at Cardozo.
Let's now hold it. You you did all that. You really not talking about the world class coach, but let's talk about some of your wins and losses.
Well, first of all, one of the things that I won at was when I was a baseball player at Cardozo, we got to the city championship game at Yankee Stadium. We lost to George Washington 4-3 when I was a sophomore, 1973. 74, we thought we were getting back there, but we didn't. And as seniors, we were really, really good. And in the quarterfinals, we got upset by Eli Whitney High School, which I think has closed. I played basketball for Cardozo. We were in the B division. First time Cardozo ever made the playoffs. I think I averaged about 8 as a junior, senior year. We were in the B division. We made the playoffs, lost to August Martin. And I was so happy that in the New York Post, I got honorable mention, All City. And in the Long Island Press, I was first team All Queens B division. So I get to college.
You should see your face. You should see your face. You know what? Your face looked like, I asked the high schoolers, when you got your first start, how did you feel? And you should see their face when they explained. Your face, it was like you were going back in time.
Well, I don't take things for granted. I don't take things for granted. I know how hard it is to be a decent player. I know how hard it is to be a good player, and I know it's almost impossible to be a great player. And I got to St. John's. I went to Manhattan College to play baseball and basketball. I went there for 3 days. Something wasn't right. I was commuting. I wasn't happy. My dad, behind my back, went over to St. John's, spoke to Joe Russo, and I ended up transferring after 3 days. And I didn't know the transfer was then. I had to sit out the whole year, but I tried out for the JV basketball team at St. John's. I made it. I played for Brian Mahoney, and I ended up playing JV for Bill Permacourt. And My dad, being a well-known thoracic surgeon, the doctor that saved Dr. Martin Luther King's life in 1958 when he got stabbed, he had a relationship with someone who became a big-time mentor, who we took out for his 99th birthday, January 4th of this year. And hopefully we'll be able to take him out for his 100th birthday, the legendary Hall of Fame coach, Lou Carnesecca.
Boy.
And Lou played a big part in my life because people don't realize it. Lou Carnesecca loved baseball, played baseball for St. John's, and also coached baseball. So everybody knows Lou as the basketball coach, just like people knew me growing up as the baseball player. How did you become a basketball coach? Or people now, when they find out the basketball coach, they didn't know my baseball background. But I was, as a sophomore, I was on the varsity. Coach Russo wasn't sure about me, but Howie Gershberg, who ended up being a pitching coach for the California Angels later on, he believed in me, and I became the designated runner for the catcher, stole a lot of bases. The following year I started, I had a hell of a year. We got to the College World Series. And that was great. We lost 2 heartbreaking games out there, but I had a hell of a year. I ended up playing in the ACBL, Atlantic Collegiate Baseball League. And the following year,
you could hit a curve ball. That put a lot of people out of baseball, couldn't hit a curve ball.
Yeah, well, I was a lefty. I was a pepper pot. My senior year, I'm, doing really well in school. We have a new couple of freshmen in there. When we went on the road, my roommate was Johnny Franco, the hopefully Hall of Fame pitcher for the Mets, number 1 saves in the history of baseball for a lefty. I think number 4 or 5 overall. We also had another good pitcher who became a Cy Young Award winner for the Minnesota Twins, Frank Viola. And I led the nation in stolen bases. What happened was I was hoping to be a walk-on for the basketball team. But Coach Carnesecca knew that I had a chance in baseball, and I was selected for the USA Baseball All-Star team in January. So Coach didn't put me on. And thank God I got selected and I was ready to play down there, because the 2 or 3 weeks I was down there, the Chicago White Sox main scout, because most of the scouts stay in the warm weather, Walt Widmeyer, saw me, and he ended up drafting me in the later rounds of that draft. Otherwise, I don't think a New York scout would have taken a chance, because it seems like most of the New York scouts don't take a chance on players with lack of size, certain stuff like that. Because I wasn't the most imposing player. I was like 5'10", 165, 170 pounds then. But I did get drafted. I got to the Niagara Falls White Sox, broke Omar Moreno's stolen base record, led the New York Penn League in stolen bases. I moved very quick, got to Major League camp, and unfortunately, I ripped the ligaments off my ankle. A scout believed in me when, Chicago released me. California Angels signed me, but I somehow I didn't want to really start going through the grind of the minor leagues, because people don't realize, they look at the greatness of the major leagues, but the minor leagues is like almost being in baseball jail. And so I go to Cardozo. I'm a substitute teacher, thinking, I'm going to sub, make some money, because when you're 21 years old, you're making X amount of dollars, you're happy. I'm living at home. And next thing you know, I get my teaching license. I teach. I end up going to IS8 in South Jamaica. In the hood, it was rough, very rough. I remember 1988, there was a police officer, Officer Byrne, who a drug dealer actually put a hit out on. And for $8,000, four kids, or young kids, shot and killed Officer Byrne. And, that really was an eye-opener, because in the hood, I remember that morning going to the junior high and how there was so many cops around. I knew something was up. But I was the type of guy, I went to my first year in coaching, I was 1 win and 21 losses. So, I couldn't believe it. I went to every clinic. bought every cassette that you can buy. Coach Carnesecca started having me accompany him. I would go here and there. Got to meet Larry Brown, the Hall of Fame coach. Started learning. And, one of the things I realized when I was 21 and the kids were 18, I might have been too much of a friend to them instead of a coach. And the following year, losing two kids from the previous team, adding one from a junior high, we went from 1-21 to 22-4. The most improved team, not only in New York City, the country. And since then, it's been a hell of a ride.
Tell me this. What did you remember I talked to you about a coach. I never said what his name. His name was Bud Lathrop. My brain had locked up. That was like you. And boy, more than ever, Bud said his first game as a coach, he had gotten beat so bad that when he got home and his wife, he said, this will never happen again. And that seems like the same story you're saying.
Well, you know what? You're young, you're dumb, you got to learn. In fact, like I tell my kids now, you have to learn how to lose before you learn how to win. And I realized every little thing meant something. Cardozo was in Bayside, Queens. It's a affluent area. The kids that play basketball, we don't have any projects. We don't, have any tough neighborhoods. Most of the kids have to come from out of the zone. So that hurts because I don't have any talent in the zone, but it helps because parents that value education want their kids out of the neighborhoods, whether it be Hollis or St. Albans or South Jamaica, to go to a school with a very good reputation like Cardozo. And I started getting some players, started working at them. And then, we started winning. We started getting in there. We started losing some heartbreakers in the playoffs, but we started pulling some upsets. I had a kid, a tall, gangly, skinny kid that couldn't play. I took him to the park every day. He had no confidence in himself, no self-esteem, and slowly but surely, he became a good player, went to Temple University, and in 1990, he was the 18th pick in the first round of the NBA draft, Duane Causwell. And I remember when we played Lloyd Daniels, Andrew Jackson team in 1986, and we were supposed to get spanked, and somehow we were losing. And, I remember before the game, because that was the year my dad passed away, and I broke down and cried before the team, and I didn't realize the team looked at each other and said, we got to find a way to win this game for coach. And next thing you know, in the fourth period, we somehow were down one, and then up one, and then up three, and then up five, and then up six. And I'm praying that the clock's not stopping. The clock's not stopping. And before you know it, I think we won by 8. And that was when we put ourselves in a category that we upset Andrew Jackson with Chuck Ramby, who was the winningest coach in the PSAL history up to that point. And from there, we were put in the elite category, and it took a long time to be, we get to the semis or we get to the finals one time. And unfortunately, I had two kids tear ACLs, once in a semifinal game, once in a quarterfinal game. So once you have your top players get hurt like that, you're not. And then 1998, 99 was the year we got over the hump at Madison Square Garden. We beat John F. Kennedy, I think 62-54, March 14th, 1999, and first championship after 18 years. My mom said it's time to move on, start making some money, and I was so naive and dumb. I thought if you're doing a really good job producing players, Division I players, Division II players, you're winning, you're playing an exciting brand of basketball, a college coach would call you up and say, hey, listen, would you be interested in being my assistant? And, one time a guy named Tom Rome, who was a big-time lawyer, he was tight with Jim Calhoun. Calhoun knew he was going to lose an assistant because he thought his assistant was going to get a head job. So there was some talk that I'd be interested in going to University of Connecticut. But his assistant didn't get the job at Canisius. The Villanova assistant did. Would I have taken it? I don't know. I'm a homeboy. I don't like leaving the house. But I put in 365 days a year, desire, dedication, hustle, intensity, desire, and Cardozo basketball has become to me special. To Queens, we're considered the king of Queens. We're probably the only school, the other four boroughs, when they look at Queens and they think Queens is soft, that they might say, well, Cardozo's the one exception. So
tell them what they mean by soft, because see, I told you about the player out of North Carolina that's going to Seton Hall now. Big East basketball in general is rough and ready. And yeah, as you say, Cardozo is like the suburbs, and the urban core, when they play y'all, they playing hard and they playing rough. And Cardozo had the reputation, don't come in here with that, because we just as tough. Now, I want to do a little Q&A with you, Coach. How important is it for you to have a good administration behind you and your program?
I've had some great administrations. I have an administration now that does a great job for the school, but they're two ladies. One's an athletic director and a lady principal. They understand sports, but I don't think they understand that to some kids it's life and death. To them, it's an extracurricular activity, but to some of these kids in New York City, it's life and death.
Yeah, I ran track, and Taft High School didn't have no nothing, and every day we had to go to Van Cortlandt Park. We caught the train, and when you say you went to Manhattan College, my first year in '69, I went to Virginia State down in Petersburg, and I had scholarships to Brown, to Syracuse, but back in the '60s, I hate to even say stuff like this, but I'm real honest about what sports was. I was a star athlete. They had people taking my SATs, and so I was able to get the scholarships. But my coach, he had went to Syracuse when Jim Brown was there, and you know what the situation was with blacks in the '60s per se in sports and how sports is run. And the campus life. That's basically what I'm saying. And my coach told me I wouldn't last a minute at any of them schools. So I went to Petersburg. My first semester, coach, 0.7 grade point average. Because, hold it, the era I came from, you had a general diploma, a commercial diploma, and an academic diploma. Luther Vandross was in my class, and I had shop, and gym.
Luther Vandross went to Taft?
Yeah, he went to Taft High School. Luther was a chubby little kid, and the shops were in the basement, and so was the music department, because of the sounds. And I didn't realize who he was. I'm like almost 40 years, 50 years old, and one of my classmates say, go back to your yearbook and look at Luther. That you remember little fat Luther? That's Luther Vandross. Wow. It's just like you talked about the gangly kid that you start coaching, and he 18th or 13th in the NBA. You never know how these kids develop. And this is the other thing I wanted to, like I said, Q&A. How do you feel about now the dollars and all this money that has come in to sports in general?
Well, a lot of the athletes earn it, but what I'm saying is when you start making $30-40 million a year, and you look at a heart and lung surgeon, a brain surgeon, not being able to make a mistake, not be able to screw up, and how hard they have to work, I think our priorities are a little wrong. I'm not saying entertainers and athletes shouldn't earn a lot of money, but when you start seeing the guy from the Dodgers who was with the California Otani, $700 million. I mean, like, are you kidding me? You know. But listen, God bless him. Uh, when we were growing up, there was no money in high
No
school,
money.
no money in outside basketball, AAU basketball. There wasn't even AAU basketball. No money in college, and the NBA and baseball players, they had to take jobs during the off season. Then it got to the point where there was nice money in the pros, and some college coaches started making some money. And then now it seems like college with the name, image, and likeness, college coaches, and the pro level, if you can keep your mouth shut, be on a team for 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to see money coming in. And unless you're an idiot or having a drug addiction or a gambling addiction, you're set for life. And you look at if you can really be solid for 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years, you're going to have generational wealth for not only you, your kids, your grandkids, and your grandkids.
Some of the pro players that you've coached, have they come back to you? And if they have, give our audience a little bit about what you talk about, if you can.
Well, every year up until the pandemic, I started in around 2008. I had an annual Cardozo basketball reunion, and everybody shows up. Whether it's the guys that became the lawyers and the doctors, to guys that own the bodegas, to guys that played overseas or are pro players. Rafer skipped to my Lou Alston, Royal Ivey, who's now assistant coach at Houston Rockets, Duane Causwell, the skinny little kid I told you about, or James Sutherland. Cardozo basketball has become like a family situation. This June, we're going to have another reunion. We're going to have it on Roma View, Cross Bay Boulevard, because the 1999 team, which Royal Ivey was on, Darryl Showtime Hill, Dwayne 20 Woodward, Ryan Special Effects Williams, one of the highest sleepers New York City seen in the last 30, 40 years. Tremaine
Hide in the
Singletary.
helicopter.
Yeah. He jumped like that.
You jump like
we're
that?
all having a reunion June 8th. You know, it's going to be a lot of work preparing for it, collecting the money, the whole bit. Word got out. Cheerleaders have, reached out to the players or myself saying, are we allowed? Everybody's allowed. So I got to, I figured there'll be at least 100, 150 people, maybe more. And, I didn't realize that June 8th is not that far away. So, I got the flyers out, the whole bit. But if you follow me on social media, whether Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or Twitter, I always put something up every day, something funny, something cute. People that I'm with. Like yesterday, I was with a gentleman who, very, very bright, 72-year-old guy, played basketball, but he's famous for his two daughters. And he was the manager, producer for Destiny's Child. His daughter's name, one is Solange, and the other's daughter's name is Beyonce. So, I put that picture up. And where'd you see Beyonce's dad? You'll see a picture with me with Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, that's how I contacted you. I'm like, you came across, and I'm like, man, who is this? Then when I Cardoza, I was like, got to try to contact him.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at your page, as you said, and scrolled down all the time. You remember what I said about off camera? I said, Coach, you got your brother's card. Because I knew that you knew a little bit or more than a little bit about my community. Yeah. And that's...
Well, I was, what's funny? My dad, may he rest in peace, He was a heart and lung surgeon, devised how to put the pacemakers in. I told you, he saved Dr. Martin Luther King's life in Harlem Hospital, September 20th, 1958. He would have me and my brother, or sometimes just me, accompany him. If it was a Saturday and it was raining out, so he had to go check up on his patients, so we would accompany him. And he would always take me to Harlem Hospital. And Ron, I got to hang around here for 20 minutes. So I'm walking around, and I'm in Harlem as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid. So Harlem was second nature to me. And I say it, I said it then, I say it now. If I was in a forest and I saw a snake, I would be more nervous than if I was in the projects and a guy had a gun, because I was put in that position and my eyes opened up to it. And I was also very blessed that my dad saved Ned Irish, who was the president of Madison Square Garden way back, his secretary, Mary Malloy. And how that happened was she had something wrong where every doctor said it was just a matter of time. And Ned Irish heard about my dad, reached out to my dad because the garden was on 31st Street, 33rd Street. My dad's office was 35 East 35th Street. So my dad took care of Mary Malloy, saved her life. She ended up living an extra 13 years. So Ned Irish was so happy. Doc, I got to take you out for dinner. Then when he took him out to dinner, he said, I got to do something more. I got to do something more. So he goes, do you have any sons? He goes, yeah. How old? 14 and 12. Do they like basketball? The 14-year-old likes it a little, but the 12-year-old loves it. The 12-year-old loves it? Good, I just hired him. So my father goes, what? I became Nick Ballboy. And so I was Nick Ballboy, part of the first championship, and up to 1975, their second championship. So I like to tease the Knicks, who, I dreamed of being head coach for them one day, which I know now is never going to happen. And the Nets or St. John's, that the last two times the Knicks won a championship, Ron Naclerio was working for the Knicks.
I like that. Hey, Coach, we're going to close this out. What would you have to say to a young freshman that how to navigate at this point being coached?
You know what? If there are a couple of people that you really believe in, that have your best interest, be a sponge. Ask them everything. Today, it's a lot easier. Everybody's on social media. Everybody's got the internet. Everybody's got an iPhone. Google. If you have a weak left hand, drills to get your ball handling better. If you need to get stronger, drills to get your core stronger, physically stronger. How to become a better shooter. There's so many ways. If you really, really want to work and get better, you can do it. And it's sad because a lot of these kids, they hit a three with a guy in his face, or if they lucky enough to jump and dunk one time, they think they're going to the league when it's only one jump shot or one dunk. They don't understand the consistency and how good you got to be. They have no idea. They have no idea.
I talk to them all. When I used to really cover a lot of high school, and I'm like, son, you a senior. Now the coach is looking at this young freshman at this point in season. He's paying attention to you, but you on your way out, bro. And he's looking at his freshmen and his sophomores, and especially his juniors that are going to be taking over the helm right now. And so as you say, it's a long time, but it's a short time.
Well, they don't realize how quick the 4 years go. I'm going to say it here because I don't think the freshmen. I have about 940 career wins, and I'm hoping my JV is playing in the semifinals of the city championship, so there is a lot of talent down there. But I'm trying to figure it out, and I don't want to be selfish, but when the freshmen graduate, if they can continue sophomore year, junior, and senior year. By then, I should have 1,000 victories, and I'll be the first New York City coach, high school, college, or NBA to ever reach 1,000 victories. So, you know what I said? I put in all this time. I have to wait for them to graduate. They don't know that. I'm hoping, we don't have a terrible season, but it goes so quick. And like I tell them, say hello before it's time to say goodbye.
I like that. On that note, Coach, it was a plum pleasing pleasure having you on the show. And for all you chumps out there think the Cascade Sports is soft, we go hard in the paint. And don't get up under them boards tiptoeing through the tulips, because we get rough and ready. Good night.
This program is brought to you by the City of Fountains Coaches Association.